Good for you, Anthony.
There you go. Okay.
I'm going to be covering. I said I was going to be covering Photoshop, and Photoshop will be mentioned. It just was. But at the very end, I'm going to give some information that we need for sizing and cropping. But what I've put together is kind of this is kind of result of something we've been talking about lately, about an overview and some continuity into where we're headed for in the future stuff. And actually at 9 o'clock Friday, Kevin and I are going to have our first meeting to put together the a future program and
Outline.
outline of what we're going to be doing with. We've kind of gotten to the habit of just oh yeah, what can we talk about this week? So we're going to try and put some continuance, consistency, um,
Kind of a continuum.
continuum, kidnapping into it. So
Nap.
so here's what we're going to be doing today. And I've said this before. I think that whatever we're doing in this group, we should try to be happy and enjoy each other's company. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. If anyone disagrees with me, I'll meet you outside.
If it's Vegas, it stays in Vegas.
Yeah, yeah. So why would you want to be a photographer? Who here got any ideas of why you're a photographer? Why you're in this group? Just a couple of quick.
Because you want to show the world what you see.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Very
good.
Nice.
Well,
I like to document things. I like to go back and it seems like it really happened if I have pictures of it.
Sure. There you go. I like to capture moments, prove to myself that I was there.
It gets you out of the house, also gets you with family and friends to get their pictures so they can enjoy it with you where they wouldn't get the pictures otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to get out and meet people, especially for those with PTSD, for that disease of isolation, as I told Steve before.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to
that's good.
continue.
Oh. And when I did magazine photography, it was a joy to share the experiences I had with my photos in the magazines.
And I want to continue what my parents did for years. There's been thousands of photographs and it's people that I barely know, but my mother always wrote on the back of each one. I don't know how she.
Good for her.
But yeah, she wrote dates, and I just can't believe it. But
well, those are great responses. I guess we can wrap it up and go home now. So I think everybody mentioned one of these or another. I have the exercise as the second one because as I get older, I need to do more walking. And this gets me outside a lot more. And I think another one for me is and this kind of fits in what Amy said, is documenting where you've been, what you've done. So see Long Beach and or the world.
Just Long Beach.
And now as Mr. Foreman has shown us that if you're a great photographer, you have a creative talent and craft that you can apply to other things. For those, I think everybody's seen some of his paintings. Is there a better word than paintings for those, or just paintings the category, Stephan? Hello?
Is he still with us?
Anyhow,
Are you muted?
Oh, he's muted.
okay,
Stefan,
well,
we
Yeah,
can't,
you're
we
muted,
can't hear you. You have to
Stefan.
unmute yourself,
Okay,
Stefan.
I'm sorry.
There he is.
Yeah, either fine art paintings.
fine art.
Yeah.
Well,
My creativity is off the head stuff.
We
and
spent the day together last week.
Oh, good.
yeah,
Don't forget, it's your art.
yeah, I think we all learn from each other quite a bit about art and the creativity. So let's see here. Well, if you want to enhance your photography, and you need to develop you need to develop a workflow, because it's actually more, as most of you probably realize, than just pushing buttons on the camera. And for some of you, that may be it. That may be the workflow is you take the picture and you post it as it was shot out of the camera. But some people are sometimes looking for more.
Hello,
Yes?
I'm sorry.
I think Oliver, you've taken a phone call. We can hear you talking.
I'm sorry. I
That's okay.
didn't expect that. I apologize.
No problem.
Please continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So one thing to have is a game plan. And a good example is when we went to Huntington Beach and we met there, I had suggested various themes of what you could do while you're in Huntington Beach, and Linda was kind enough to actually print it out as a handout. And so in my case, my plan was I was going to just stay there in that mall and look for reflection in windows, people walking around, just kind of document what was going on there. And I think it worked out pretty good for me. But let's say I'd started walking down the street and said I was going to shoot doors, but then I turn the corner and there's a clown convention. Well, you've got to be able to adjust and take the opportunities that present themselves. This actual picture that I have here is, if you look in the background, what I was there actually to photograph was the light show, but it was just so crowded and it was hard to get any coherent view of what was going on. And then I saw this lady standing there, and wow, I thought that made an interesting photo.
I love that photo because I love the golden of her hair is the same as her top.
Yeah.
And I one of the first things I want to do is go straighten out all that loose hair that's coming out of the bun of the cup. And I think that's really the best part.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just so adorable. So good for you for not cleaning that up.
Yeah.
How
So
many trillions of stars are there, Amy?
What's that?
How many trillions of stars are there?
Right. See, and I'm worried about little hairs.
okay, it's good to have a clear vision of what you want to do. I think John Boland, you could say, well, what's John Boland doing? Well, he has a really good, I think, very good vision. He's really amazing at walking around in various communities and finding really interesting shots. Sometimes you may want to use some props or maybe have someone along. I recently went out for coffee with a friend of mine, but I also told him he's going to be my model for some of the pictures. I said, I need somebody walking in front of this building. So, and well, here's an example of props over here on the right and a model. So anybody got anything they want to add to that? I think Amy uses a lot of props.
I like nope, this picture says it all.
Yeah. Okay, so we're photo makers, but we are the photo warriors of photo makers. Um, and the reason I like that phrase photo makers is you make the picture. The camera is just a tool. It doesn't matter whether it's an iPhone, a pinhole camera, an old Kodak an Instamatic or whatever, Polaroid, or a Hasselblad. It's you that's making the photo. And so we've heard this phrase before. I've used it a lot. The best camera in the world is the one in your hand. You make the photo. The rest is using tools. And when I put this, I thought of this picture I had of Doug, and he's got a lot of equipment there in his hand.
Mhm.
Douglas Moody, yeah. Oh, he was. We went to the Living Desert Zoo, and I was a little bit surprised, but he brought all his macro stuff to the zoo.
Mhm.
Uh,
He's a
and-
macro shooter.
yeah,
His website is amazing.
Mhm.
yeah. Come on. Okay. So
Yeah.
once you've got everything, once you're ready to go, you've got your ideas, your theme, know what you want to do. It's time to get your gear together, your lenses, tripods, any lighting you want to bring, and your camera. But most importantly, you want to make sure you have a SD card or whatever card your camera uses, and at least one fully charged battery. It's probably good to have a backup. I think that pretty much nails it for getting ready.
That's a nice picture, by the way. It's really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Did you
is
shoot
one
that?
of
Yeah.
that's when you're using PowerPoint, they have a design helper if you want an illustration. And I found that on there. That's not a picture I took.
Okay.
But you could.
Yes,
I'll
I could.
that
I
Yeah.
could do better.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that I find that I try to avoid, but sometimes I get so excited in what I'm doing, I don't pay attention to the background. Sometimes all it takes is a couple of steps left or right, and you have a much better background. And I like to walk around with my camera set at f8 and 4 or 5 hundredths of a second. Now I may have to adjust that, but if something just pops up, that setting will usually work pretty good for about any situation, outdoors anyhow. And if you've got several lenses, I've got one, I'm down to, I only have 3 lenses now. I sold most of my other lenses because I realized I don't use several of them enough to justify them. I think Captain Larry has them now, but
Oh, I should get rid of mine.
yeah, so I usually pick one lens. I'll think, what am I going to be doing? Which lens do I want to bring with me? Well, obviously, if I'm going to Bolsa Chica, it's going to be my 150 to 600. If I'm doing street photography, I like to use my 40 millimeter prime. And if I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing or things like that, then the 24 to 120. That pretty much covers everything that I'm going to be doing. And the 24 to 120 is also a good travel lens. But whatever you do, just remember, in order to make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs. That's an eggplant, by the way. Okay, it's time to stop monkeying around and get some good photos. Okay, and take a variety of photos, and don't feel you might go somewhere with one thing in mind, it's not working out. Well, be flexible. Find something else you can do. Have freedom to shoot whatever inspires you, or unexpected. If a clown convention comes to town, there you go. So now you're done shooting, and now you've got the joy of post-processing. Some of you might not like that, agree with that statement, but to me, I love post-processing. It's a chance to be creative. But the first thing you do is got to organize your images. And I think this is an area that you need to really plan for. You need to come up with a way you want to organize your images, write it down, and then stick with that pattern. Otherwise, so you can always find your pictures. And there's a variety of ways that work. Two examples would be Doug Bucklew. He likes to organize by subject or event. I like to organize by date, and then I use keywords to find what else I want to make it easier to find the pictures if I don't remember the date. So, like for example, on this photo, I'm sure I have in my keyword list, I have year, so it would be show up in that year. I have location, and oops, sorry, I made a mistake here. And subject, I'd probably have street photography. At least those three keywords that I can use to find the photo. But one thing you've got to do, if things don't work out like you planned, and you've got to be, I've finally come to grips with this in the last year, and that is deleting all the stuff. I would never use this picture again. This is a crap shot. I hated deleting anything I had shot. Well, maybe sometime in the future I'd want it. But so I've been deleting mistakes or pictures that just don't tell the story or whatever.
Well, you wanted that picture today.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
You wanted that picture today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mistake.
That's a classic. You don't want to get rid of that one.
No, that's
Oh, no. I'm not getting rid of
that
that
tells
one,
a story.
Yeah.
but it tells a story. This is in an area of Las Vegas, kind of between Fremont Street and the Sin part, of Las Vegas, the main part.
I love it. I love that.
Good.
Reminds me driving the grapevine back and forth.
Yeah, that's a good. And sometimes chickens will get into your computer and mess things up, and you'll lose something. I've had that happen. I lost almost a days of shooting when I was in Africa, but I was able to recover it with Google Photos. And then another mystery to me is I always shoot in RAW, so I always keep the raw images that I only keep the raw images that I've made a JPEG from. And for some reason, I have no clue how this happened, but I recently discovered all my raw files from the year 2015 are gone. I only have the JPEGs. That's not so, but that was long
like
enough.
something I would do.
I've been hanging around Amy too long.
No.
So now one of the reasons I like post-processing is I like to make the pictures pop. I like the creativity. It's like conducting an orchestra, and you're playing with clarity, and you're playing with texture, and the saturation and whites and blacks. It's a chance to create something that really pops. Now, some people like this, some don't. I know how to do journalism. I worked for a newspaper. Maybe that's why I don't do very much of that, because when you do photojournalism or journalism, oh, come on, stop. Why is this thing so jumpy? So
And
it's
Steve,
easy.
this
Huh?
is, that's interesting because I don't think of it in that respect. I think of, I want to take the picture that, and the picture that I take is what I see. I don't want to do all kinds of post-production and take things out of it. It's just not my thing. So that's,
Yep. Yeah. That's also, I think, Lawrence Gainer's in that same camp, and what was his name?
But
Michael
I do
Fernandez?
do a lot of I do edit my photos to bring out colors and
yes, I do that too,
Oh, well, that's what we're,
but
Hmm.
not taking things out of the picture and adding
no,
things.
that I don't do.
I'd say, Steve, what you've done with yours is taken and turned it into art. You've taken a moment, a photograph of something, but you've turned it into a piece of art.
Yeah. And when I said I shoot in RAW, and I'm a firm believer in shooting in RAW, but it's not for everybody. But what I do, actually about 2 years ago, I thought, wait a minute, I'm still shooting in RAW, but Lightroom has this option for which you hit this auto thing, and it shows you what the camera would have made of the picture, the JPEG.
oh,
And not all the time, but quite often, I'll do that, and oh, that's pretty good. Uh,
Mhm.
and maybe it's just a little bit of fine tuning on whites or exposure or something like that, cropping. But now use that as my first step, because it gives me a good starting point that so I don't have to play around getting there.
The AI in Lightroom is fantastic.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I have a commissioned portrait, and it's a heavy person, I'll take 20 pounds off him, and nobody seems to miss that at all.
I want to set an appointment with you.
I can do it.
Okay, so we're leading up to our workshop on Friday, and that's being able to crop photos. We're going to be cropping them for the size for the show, but cropping can do a lot for removing distinctions, picking what area you want them to focus on. And so this is a picture I took at a car show, and I just wanted to show the fins. I used a very wide open shutter to get the background out of focus, and I really like the way it came out. So.
Mhm. It's beautiful.
Okay, well, when you've done all that, what do I mean by delivering your project? Anybody got an idea?
Nope.
Well, let's
Posting,
start with the chair on the left.
sharing it.
The chair on the left is for people who just want to take a picture, and
But isn't that our right?
oh,
Yeah.
that's the right. Yeah, you're American right. So you're on the right. You've taken the picture and you just want to store it on your hard drive. Or maybe you're in the blue chair and you want to post it on Facebook. Well, but the person in the green chair wants to put it on Facebook and share it with friends or family. Then we got the person who's going to do all of that and then print it out. Or maybe this guy, all he wants to do is print it. So delivering your project is essentially the final step. So now we're going to talk about kind of a big jump here in a way, but this has to do with Friday. And the basic editing tool we're going to be looking at is cropping and sizing. And so what I'm going to do here, if Zoom will cooperate with me, do you see a new screen?
Now we see the
Oh,
tools.
All
The
right,
tape
I've
measure
got to
and the-
stop share and reshare. Okay, sorry about that. Hang on. That always, Zoom just doesn't seem to get it. Oops. Hang on, share screen. And here we go.
We still see you. Oh, there we go.
All right. This is a video about sizing and recropping, and I think it's pretty good. And I'll post the video on our website if you want to study it before Friday. And I'm going to give a short example afterwards. So
Sound check, sound check, sound check, sound check, sound check.
can you hear the sound?
Yeah.
yeah.
Do that one again. Welcome to 30 Days of Photoshop. Today, we're going to show you how to crop, resize it, and even add more information to your images. Hey there, welcome to Flern. My name is Aaron Nace. You can find me on flern.com, where we make learning fun. And in today's video, as a part of our 30 Days of Photoshop series, we're showing you the amazing crop tool in Photoshop. Now, obviously, we can use the crop tool to change the aspect ratio of our image. Maybe if we have a wide image, we can go to a square format. But we can also use this tool to add more information to our photograph, which would be perfect if you wanted to turn it into a vertical banner or other type of image for another type of display. This tool is incredibly powerful and simple to use. We got a great tutorial. Let's jump into Photoshop. So we're going to go ahead and open up our image for today's tutorial. Now, if you haven't already done so, you can download this on flern.com. Just follow the link right down below. Let's click on F4 full screen. We're going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to go to my crop tool. So let's hit C for the crop tool, or you can click right over here. Now, we're going to go through the different options for the crop tool. At the very top left, you're going to see a little ratio button here, and this is where you can choose your own ratio. For instance, if you want to choose a 1-to-1 square ratio, this is where we choose that. Now, a lot of the most common ratios are built into the presets here, but you can actually just go type in your own. So if you want a ratio and you want a 1 to a 1.25 ratio, you can do that right here as well. Okay, so that ratio, let's just hit undo there. That ratio now is kind of like plugged in to my crop tool. So you can see it's vertical now. I can actually switch it here to go to a horizontal ratio. Okay, and with my crop, I can simply grab any of my corners and crop this up or down. Now, if I go a little bit to the left, you can see my vertical and horizontal ratio shifts a little bit. Now, you can also hold Alt or Option to just crop around the midpoint if you'd like. There we go. So it's not going to try to move around with the rest of your image, just the crop's going to move. Now, I'm going to hit Escape. Before we do any type of cropping, I very highly recommend getting this Delete Crop Pixels. Make sure that's unchecked, okay? Because if I decide to check that, let's say I do a crop there and hit Enter, well, I've lost all that information. So I'm going to try to get back that information there. I'm going to just click and drag out again, and well, unfortunately, it's totally gone. So whenever we're using the crop tool, I want to make sure the Delete Crop Pixels is not checked. Let's go ahead back in time. We're going to make sure this is unchecked and we can continue to move forward. Now, we do have some interesting tools built into the crop tool. I'm going to go ahead and clear my ratio here so you can just kind of create whatever crop you'd like. There we go. Let's hit escape. We have a straighten tool, which will actually allow you to click and drag on a horizon. In this case, we don't have a very clear horizon, but let's just say our image was rotated. Let's say it was rotated a little bit off and you wanted to straighten it up. You could simply click and drag on the horizon and it would automatically straighten out your image. Of course, you can just click out here and rotate your image there as well. All right, let's go ahead and hit enter. Now, I have cropped my image a little bit smaller. I can click there and you can see basically this is the rest of my photograph. This is actually available here in our settings. So this crop shield is where we can actually see the rest of our photograph. You can change the color to match your canvas, and you can even change the opacity of whatever's around there, okay? So if you want to see just a slight preview of the rest of the crop, this is how we do it. All right, let's go ahead and into that checkbox right up there. Now, at this point, I have cropped into my image, but I've got a lot of information that's like outside of my photograph, right? And it's rotated a little bit. I'm going to go to image and then down to reveal all. And what this is going to do is it's just going to show me everything that I have back in my image again, which is really, really helpful. Now, I'm just going to hit undo a couple times because I don't need a rotational crop around my image. There we go. And here we are back to our original photograph. Let's continue through our different settings. Here at the very top, we have a few different options for how we'd like our crop shield displayed. For instance, we can use the rule of thirds, which can actually help us create a better composition. You can do things like the golden ratio as well, or even like this golden spiral, which will help you choose a focal point. For instance, if I want to make this area a focal point, I could use the golden spiral, something like that, to help that area become a focal point. There we go. Maybe we'll bring that down and bring this up a little bit. So the idea would be your eye would travel along there and wind up here. Now, in this case, our composition doesn't really support the golden spiral, so I would probably just use a rule of thirds and try to break up my image into the mountains being on the bottom 2/3. There we go. And then the sky being on the top 2/3. So go ahead and click our little checkbox up there, and you can see how these tools can actually help with your composition. Now, you can actually resize your image as you crop as well, simply by typing the dimensions you'd like into the little ratio boxes. So here where we see ratio, for instance, if I go to 1:1 square ratio and hit that checkbox up there, if it just says 1:1, this is going to just change the aspect ratio of your image, but it doesn't resize it. To do so, you can go right up here where it says ratio and type in width and height resolution. So you can use pixels up here. You can actually use inches too. I'm going to type in 10 space IN, 10 space IN, and this is going to be 10 inches by 10 inches. So let's go ahead and make this a little bit larger. There we go, and hit enter. And what this is going to do, not only is it going to apply the crop itself, but it's going to make this document 10 inches by 10 inches. We'll go to image and then down to image size. And right over here, you can see that it in fact did resize the image itself to 10 inches by 10 inches. So not only can you change resolutions, I'm just going to undo that. You can change resolutions, but you can also change the size of the document itself. Now, last but definitely not least, if you want to add more information to your photograph, you can actually use content-aware crop, which will read the information in your photograph and it'll actually allow you to extend your canvas. Now, keep in mind, the simpler your image, the easier this is going to be on the software and the more realistic your results are going to be. So if you have a very complex background, it might struggle a little bit and I would only recommend extending it a little bit. But if you have a simple background like we do here, you'll actually be able to get away with quite a bit of an extension. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. We're going to grab our crop tool and up here at the top, I'm going to check content aware. So that's our first checkbox there. Let's go ahead and just clear everything else. Okay. And click on our image. Now, in this case, what I want to do is actually add more information up top. There we go. I'm still using kind of like the, there we go, 2/3 ratio. So this time it's going to be 2/3 sky with 1/3 ground. Now, all of this information doesn't exist at all. But when I hit this checkbox, what it's going to do is change my crop and figure out exactly what needs to go up there. Now, in this case, it's going to be relatively simple because it's a blue sky, but we're actually going to be able to add information to the top of our photograph. And check that out. All of this information up here was automatically generated by the content-aware crop. Now, let's go ahead and undo that, and let's see if we can go a little bit wider. we're gonna just click and drag this from the left to the right and see how it does. Simply adding more information to our photograph. There we go. And that's actually pretty incredible. All of this information here was added with this tool. So here in the before, basically ended right here. And in the after, all this information was added. Let's go ahead and try it on the left side as well. I'm going to just pull it a little bit further and see how the tool does. So it ended right here, right about there. And then all this information was dynamically generated by this tool. Now, it's not 100% perfect. You can kind of tell that it just repeats over and over again. But with a little bit of clone stamp work and a little bit of adjustments, you could definitely get away with extending your image. Let's go ahead and extend it up just a little bit there as well and see how that does. So these tools are incredibly powerful because it happens all the time. Look at that. We just added probably like 20% more information to this photo using content-aware crop. So traditionally, cropping was just used to scale down your images and reduce the amount of space they take up. Now you can use the crop tool to add more information. This is incredibly handy, especially if you have images that you want to print at different resolutions. If you need just a little bit of space on either side, you can do this and properly fill the resolution of your print. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying 30 days of Photoshop. If you haven't already done so, be sure to join us.
Excellent.
Okay.
That was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. Actually, this guy, I've watched him on a lot of things, and he has his classes and videos so well organized, and I've looked at all the free ones, and I'm on a quest now to really improve my knowledge of Photoshop so I can keep up with you guys. And so I ended up signing up for his complete tutorials. All right, now let's see here. I've got to get nothing's working. Let's see, come on. I got to get rid, I've lost my window that says
Aren't we doing this
Yeah.
Friday?
yeah, that's what we're doing. I'm waiting for this thing to shut down so I can okay. But I've completely lost what do you see? Do you guys see?
We see the pictures of all of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not sharing.
Yeah. And okay, here we go. Now do you see a photo?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is in Photoshop, what we just talked about, what he just did. I'm not going to go into everything he talked about, but let's say I want to use this for the show. And I wanted it to be 12 by 18. Well, 12 by 18 over here, I picked, that's 2 to 3, 4 to 6, 8 to 12, 12 to 18. It's all and amazingly, that's what that picture was shot in. But I can drag, let's say I don't like all that. Let's say I just want this to be my picture. And let's say I change my mind. I want to clear that. And like he did, these are all ratios, 1-to-1 square. That now, with not thinking of the show, just looking at things, this might work good on Instagram, for example. Instagram, it would just not look right with all that to the right.
Have a hitch.
You can use mute. So, and then on image size, well, whoops, let me check this. All right. Okay. And okay, so whoops, sorry, edit. I changed my mind, let's say oh, I really don't like it 1 by 1. So what I need to do is get it. Let's say I decide I want some of this back. So I just drag this over like he said and click here. That didn't work out perfect, but you can continue to work on that with using content aware and fill to clean that up. So now let's go to image size. See, it's if I want the width to be 18, if I didn't select it up there, and 12. Okay, view, fit on screen. So there it is. Back to that. So that we'll get into this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going all the different details. I did learn one thing from this guy, and that was in here on the cropping. He put in the okay. Oh, he just put in the here, I want width to be 18. You can just put in the, oh, then it was a space inches. I've always done it under image, but you can do it right here. So there's my 18 by 12 frame. Now let's say I had an image that just didn't quite come out to 18 by 12, but I still want to frame it. That's one more thing I want to cover. So I can go to image, canvas size, and I can put a border around it. Change this to inches because I have trouble thinking in pixels. Okay, so I want to put 18 here because it's showing what the size of my photo is, and put 12 here. Now, this may need some adjusting to get it exactly like you want, but view, fit on screen. So now you have something that fits the sleeve that we're doing our show in, and it's got a white border around it. All right, stop share.
That was really a good primer for Friday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll be working. I think it will help a lot if we have, I don't know where this thing, I'm losing the tool. Let's see.
We could just see ourselves again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we going to have a TV on Friday or in our classes?
That's our plan.
That's our plan. Yeah.
That's plan A.
That means they're still working on it.
So, we have a TV. We have to go and find the cord